So what advice would you then give to someone who's considering a bold career pivot, but they're hesitating?
I think this will depend on the person as well. It's very personal based, but the general advice I would have is that to just do your own research, do ample research, and it's the same advice I would give my old self. Talk to people, talk to the people in that industry. Um, there are and talk to career professionals like there are tons of services like Leah's company. There are tons of consultants out there to help you. There are tons of resources, especially in this day and age. You don't even need to meet people out. Like we could do a Zoom call, and it's equally effective. We can see it, and there are plenty of people out there with a vast amount of experience who are more than willing to help. Like I remember, this is not related to the transitioning, but process. But I've done the thing where I cold email people. I've had people cold email me as well, or law students or struggling law students who are having doubts perhaps, or having trouble deciding, or just being overwhelmed by the process or the prospect of entering the legal world. And I returned the favor. I met with every single one of them. I gave them at least an hour to talk to them. I gave them my WhatsApp,
Oh,
offered help whenever I had the time. And some of them turned out very successful. Some of them got a training contract with one of the top firms in the UK, for example, my competitor now. But not important. But she got into one of the top firms, and I'm really proud of her. And thinking back a few years back before she was just a law student and asking me about where should I qualify? What should I do? How do I get a training contract? I'm happy to share this experience, and people are more willing to share about themselves than most people realize, and especially we're not asking them to talk about anything complicated. We're talking about yourself. It's people like talking about themselves. That's also a good. That's also something that people always say in in BD trainings, that people like talking about it. Talk to them, listen to their story, then they'll like you. So people like talking about themselves. So use this opportunity to get some insight into whatever career or industry you want to go into. That's more. It's talking to one person is more in that industry, especially a rather senior person, is far more useful than spending 10 hours on Google, because
yeah.
there are things that you can't Google. So being well prepared and start talking to people in whatever industry you want to talk. And even better is to just keep networking, because knowing people from different industries it will
Opens
prove
doors.
valuable over time. Yeah, open doors. And even if you don't need their help in the near future, or even in the far future, at least you gain a friend.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I have to ask the money question here, because some individuals hesitate from making the change because of financial concerns. And so I'm curious, how did you manage such concerns for yourself back in the day?
My parents obviously were supportive, so they gave me a small loan. That was helpful. Obviously, if you have friends who could do that, if your parents are already retired, or you don't want to bother your parents or family, that's always an option. But for me, I was fortunate that my parents were able to extend me a small loan to kickstart the process. And obviously, I have my savings from my time working with Leah. And even more fortunate, and probably not applicable to most people, is that my first employer sponsored my study for my final year, and gave me a living stipend as well. So that helped a lot.
And was
But
that you asking for it, or it was offered to you?
it was offered as part of the program. Um, they offer that for some of the the bigger firms. They offer that, so that's at least for lawyers, that's helpful. If people want to go into the law, I know a lot of people disagree with that decision, but a lot of people, anyone looking to go into the law, most firms, at least in the UK anyway, the bigger international firms would sponsor studies. So that's one. That's one of the consideration, but sacrifices would have to be made. I know how I quite a few days I've had to have cereals for the whole day. So That's sacrifice would have had to be made, but that's
That's
just
tough
part of
because I
life.
know Adrian likes a good meal out. So
Oh
having
yeah,
to
for sure.
onto the cereal, oh, that must have been rough for you back then.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow, wow. Okay. And so one last thing, I guess, and I kind of think you've alluded to this a little bit as we move into more disruption happening in industries. I mean, in tech, you've got AI. You've mentioned as well, like some of that is happening also with the legal space. What skills do you think are important for individuals to cultivate in order to thrive in the future, like forward looking?
Yeah, I mean, it's down to the people skill. This soft skill, everyone harps on about it. No one knows what it means. But I mean, I'm not claiming that I have the right definition for it. But to me, it's just being able to manage people, to talk to people, and it's not just to chit chat or anything. It's the ability to be able to be able to anticipate people's needs, right? Like, for example, being a lawyer, like talks about AI. Our firm is one of the first firms that adopts AI. I mean, it's useful at times. I certainly use it. It's useful as a starting point for sure, but an AI can't anticipate what you need. And ultimately, knowing the law is just the bare minimum requirement for a firm like ours. Um, Having a commercial sense, being able to advise, truly advise, and not just be a human Google, is far more important than being able to recite the law. No one cares about carbolic smoke bowl case law. Nobody cares about that. You ask me case law, I don't remember a lot of them, to be honest. Like at least I know a case law like that exists, but I can't recite whatever name or whatever or the details of the law. But that's as long as you know how it works, that's important. But that's just the bare minimum to be a good lawyer. To be a great lawyer, you need to have the commercial skill and people skill to manage people. There are so many parties involved in a transaction. For example, for a transaction lawyer, anyway, how do you balance it? How do you understand the power dynamic within it, and how you fit in that power dynamic, and how do you influence other people to get to a mutually satisfactory position? So that skill, that empathy, is the most important thing to learn, and that's something that I'm not saying AI would never be able to do it, because quite frankly, I'm not sure. I'm not in that space, but it's nowhere near. It's certainly nowhere near. For example, that AI might tell you, okay, well, the law is like that, so you should stick with it in this contract. But is there another way to do it? There is usually another way to do it, and to get around people's concern. AI can't answer that. In fact, a lot of people can't answer that. But being able to anticipate what other people's needs and fear and concern, how
Yeah.
to make their life easier and job easier, that kind of people skill is pivotal to any career, any job. Like, even if you're not in a client-facing role, how do you make my boss's job easier so that one day, I'll get noticed, I'll be appreciated? How do you make your client's life easier? How do you make your boss's life easier, for example? All these things start with people skill, empathy, being able to understand people. So that's what I think is the most important. I mean, it's not very helpful in a sense that, because this is not something that you can learn necessarily, but it's
Mm.
just something that you pick up through life. And the more you talk to people, the more you do networking, the more you go outside and see the world, and just immerse yourself with different circles of people, the more you will pick up, the more likely you will pick up something useful. So that's what I would say is the most important thing.
Yeah, yeah. We talk about a lot of these, what you just said, actually, the skills around reading the room, reading the people, the intuition, listening at what we call the level 2, level 3, which is where the things that are not being said, right, is far more powerful than what's actually being said by people sometimes. So no, these are absolutely relevant across any kind of role or industry out there, as long as you're in the business, as you say, of dealing with people and relationships. Yeah. Well, with that, thank you so much, Adrian. I really appreciate. I know it's late on your end. Thank you so much for taking the call. And I know you're busy. I certainly hope you're heading home instead of back to work.
I have
But
to talk to my junior, but he's
you've
just
got
just
you've
been
got more
messaging.
work. Oh, life of a
No,
lawyer.
no,
But thank you. I really appreciate this. And for what it's worth, perhaps in the audience there may be folks out there who are contemplating a pivot into law, but are held back because they just see this massive, as you described, amount of a hill, right, or a mountain to climb, and you've certainly made that climb, and you've proven that it's possible. So I think that's really an inspiring story for folks out there.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.